Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another day. This is Delenn Russell talking to you from DadCraft73's Minecraft Java Patreon server. So today we are going to be doing a bunch of tree chopping and some running around in circles to get a little bit more stuff done with the villagers. And the hope is to start laying out the library for the day. We may get as far as mats allow, and then more tree chopping will ensue. But hopefully we will start to get going. So this is going to be a rather large library book that is going to be the first major build, and I'm hoping to have it put over in this area over here where it's getting kind of open. It'll actually probably need a bit more tree chopping down there as well to clear out some space, and we will see how far we get today. So let's start off with a quick assessment of what we've got in our inventories. All right. So I've got a little bit of paper and such, but I think I can probably offload that for now. Let's put it away. So let's ditch the stuff that we don't need or do not want to lose. Frankly put, at this point in the game, for me, there's quite a lot I don't want to lose, and reason for that is simply that I don't have a ton, and managed to lose quite a lot in the end. Nothing super important, but given that I did not actually have a whole lot to begin with by choice, that didn't have a whole lot to begin with by choice, then it turned out that I misplaced a few things that would have liked to keep. It's not a big deal, really. So this morning, we've got a hole in here. You'll see on the mini-map that I've got a few critters and creatures and whatnot hanging out down below me, but hopefully they will not harass us too much today. I still have yet to get down there and light things up, just hadn't really bothered to do that just yet. So just going to start out by just taking a quick blue in this hole. Okay, not much that wants to have me for breakfast at the moment, so that's good news. And I'm going to take this tree out. One of the things you'll see spotting around the village is a couple of minor accidents regarding just stripping logs when I did not intend to. Seems to be I have a bad habit of right-clicking a little too much, and with bad aim when I go to talk to a villager. Nothing exciting about that. I mean, everybody does it, but it just means that there'll be a few repairs that need to be done here and there. Good morning to the Zerks. Welcome aboard. Hopefully your day is going fairly well. Also a verbal shout out to Brian, who is currently sitting on the server. There may be a couple other ones. That's one of our neighbors in the basement. They apparently are not too happy with the noise going on upstairs. That's okay. What have we got? Nope, let's take down a couple more trees. The number of trees you've stripped. Yeah, I mean, things like this just happen, you know? And everybody does it. I mean, everybody has their period where they've accidentally hit a villager by mistake, and that's not a big deal either. I mean, it can be a bit annoying since I've chosen not to go ahead and zombify and then cure villagers. Just not something on my list. So, if I make that mistake and I actually smack them, then they get angry, then it just turns out that it's going to take a little while for them to calm down again, which means I just have to be judicious about how I spend emeralds at that point. Either that or go do a little bit of running around before I try to talk to them again. So since we have been here last, if you guys didn't catch it, this server got together on the weekend and we took out the dragon a few times. Thanks very much to the server mates who are with us. Don't tell Sheep Queen I just did that. in any case, we took out we took out the dragon on the weekend, which was a blast. I had so much fun doing that, and would definitely be up for doing that again. At some point soon, I may actually, just for kicks, try it on my own in a solo world. You know, get creative to get there, so to speak, and then try it on my own, because although it didn't feel like it was all that difficult, and I mean, a lot of players say that, you know, your first time is really just a walk in the park and not to be bothered by it. It has occurred to me that I actually had somebody tanking the dragon's interest and a lot of the Enderman's interest, so it'd be interesting as a next step in terms of playing personal growth to see what would happen if I actually was the center of interest as well. And but that's more of a curiosity thing that can be saved for when I've actually got time. But yeah, it was definitely fun. I suppose there'll probably be wither fights later on, and we'll see if I want to be involved in that, depending on what the scheduling is and who's got what. Also, I mean, we are aware that on Java, it's a little bit more of a walk in the park for withers when you do it with a group than it is on Bedrock. So I wouldn't necessarily consider that a fair experience until I've tried both. I'm getting spoiled by the compliments from other members of the server on the dragon fight. I really did not do a whole lot. Got lucky a few times on some caged crystals and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that everybody's got to get that done at some point, and I was really pleased to have been invited along on that one. But still, my kids have not let me forget how I ended up falling out of the world in the in the end, simply because I bridged out and then decided, oh, that platform isn't quite big enough, let's make it just a smidge bigger, backed up and fell off my bridge. So, you know, oopsie and all that. Pardon me for a second. Still fighting a bit of a cold, so every once in a while I have to take a little bit of a break for that. In any case, so not a whole lot has happened in this world. As some of the other fellow Canadians have been mentioning, the weather's been kind of janky up here. We had some beautiful weather for a while in Calgary, and we had one of our Chinooks with the lovely little cloud arch and tons of wind, which I strongly dislike the wind. But for today and tomorrow, we're back into deep freezes, so I'm not fully sure what it is in Fahrenheit off the top of my head, but we are getting a high of about minus 15 Celsius in Canada today. And so it's just a little bit cooler. Tomorrow's high is probably supposed to be about 9, which is getting better, and then we're back up into the above freezing temperatures. Let's see which space we're getting. That should do. Okay. So we're getting up into those temperatures. While I like the warmth, I really do hate the wind. The other thing I find is it makes it really hard for my body to adjust to the colder temperatures. It just means that it takes a little bit more bundling up and choosing your layers and so forth. While I don't envy people like Arch Thunder up north who were getting some freezing rain this week, I do sort of like their city better, only insofar as the fact that when it gets cold, it stays cold. So you get winter, and it stays winter till reasonable months. It just means that if you're cold, you can bundle up, but there is, to some extent, your body can just get used to it, so that you don't end up getting shifts from warm to cold, warm to cold. And sometimes I wonder whether or not that makes some people down here more prone to head colds than they would otherwise be. But I mean, it's just a theory. There's no scientific backing to that. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on in the house. The kids, Sheep Queen and Star Wars fan kid, are back in school, which means that they're actually seeing their friends face to face for now. We've been under warning that we could go online again at any time, which is a bit of a pain in the backside, but can't help it. That's just the way things are these days. So I'm gonna go with that. Oh, but on the other hand, my son's been having a great time this week because it's been science school for him this week. So what that means for us is that he's been coming home with some really cool stories of what he's been doing in class. And I guess yesterday he was working a lot on, he said he got to be part of a circuit. So they actually did things where you were using your own body as resistance and or conducting across the surface of your skin. And that was really kind of interesting. I'd like to hear more about that from him, but we'll just have to see how it goes today because he's got something else. I guess he's doing science school all week, which is really kind of neat. I do like that quite a lot. So we'll just have to see what other kinds of cool adventures he gets to go on during the week. Yellow says I'm running amok. Yep, running amok and lots of running around in circles. There's yet another happy little hole that I have to light up at some point. Maybe we'll do that later this week. I will probably plan a stream for that, possibly Thursday, and see how far we get today. But maybe on Thursday I'll plan up for a whole bunch of torches and whatnot. We'll get some of this stuff lit up underneath because I'm still having lots of creatures just randomly showing up underground. I mean, while it's great because above ground you don't get much of anything, but you can predictably find that there'll be other things underground. For example, usually, the vast majority of the time, although today it'll make me a liar, when I go over here to harvest the sugarcane, I think today is probably the first day since I've looked. Nope, there we go. There's Edward the Enderman. And no, he's not actually name tagged, but it's just he's been there absolutely every single time I go over to collect stuff. So I don't know whether he got jammed in there, trapped in some sort of way, and can't get himself out, but he's been there every time. I even tried to go in and clobber him and missed, unfortunately. Had him teleport around, so I mean, I know he's not stuck. Yeah, this is, well, yes and no, Yellow. It is DadCraft73's Discord server. But DadCraft73's Java vanilla server. But I do tend to put in a couple of quality of life mods. For example, let's see. So, no, I don't have this done here easily. Anyway, but I do tend to put in some mods, such as you can see there's a mini map up in the upper right corner. I have a world map here as well, which I use just because I tend to get really, really lost. And then I've got some mouse tweaks on, and some, well, vanilla tweaks, or in this particular case, it's faithful tweaks, so same sort of thing, but just for the faithful resource pack. As there's some neat stuff that happens. So I mean, like I've got alternating or random skins for things like chickens and sheep and cows. And then, do I have enough space? Yeah, we should. Here we so we've got a little bit of variety going on there, and as the Zerks were highly amused by when we were in the end, the Endermen tend to have either ender dust on them or some sort of like muddy grass kind of thing going on the bottom. Let's see. Okay, so this thing is going to be, this library book that I'm talking about is actually going to be fairly large. So I'll start laying it out today and then... Right, that's not what I wanted, but okay. I'll start laying it out today and then we'll just see how far we get in terms of building it, because I'm not too sure the dimensions we're going to be using at this point. And the funny thing about this, the other reason I want to get the place lit up is I can hear a whole lot of creatures and I can see them on the mini-map, but they are actually underground. So, as I said earlier, it does help when it comes to, what's the word? It does help when it comes to not having mobs above ground, you know, mob cap and all that jazz, but The visitors are a little bit on the unwelcome side, so I just have to make sure that I get everything plugged up before I get too far here. Okay. So initially I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with this library book, but I've decided that, not strangely enough, it seemed a little bit too obvious that I wanted to actually build a library, like a villagers inside the library book. Let's see, that's the challenge, is to figure out where do I want to start? Okay. I don't really like the neighbors underground, but I also don't want to build that inside the library. So let's just start roundabout here. We can always move it. So that'll be a wall. And this will be a wall. Okay, so 1, 2, oops. Yeah, the dust on the Enderman looks really cool. I actually like that look. 2, 3, 4, 7. 10. Counting with Delenn, yes. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Alright. Use those for markers, why not? So, yeah, the Endermen looked really cool, and it's kind of fun when they scream at you too, because the little bit of dust on their arms and their heads, like their whole thing jiggles. They did a great job with that when people created this one. So we'll have a villager in this slot here, and then there'll be some fencing, another one, fence, another one, fence, fence, villager fence, fence. Okay. Let's see if I can get, I believe I wanted about 10 across, and then another piece of wall. Perfect, okay. That should work. Now I have absolutely no idea how many librarians are actually worth having. So it's more of a, I guess you could say, gut feel, because I mean, a square book never really helped anybody. It just doesn't look right. And I thought about designing this in creative, but I've never really been one for creative, so we'll have to just see whether or not I go and design things in creative in future. That'll be something to play with. But let's see, we're gonna need at least square to start. 4, 6, 13, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I've been playing a little bit with my with my settings and stuff to see if I can avoid some of the crazy robotic stuff that I had going on Saturday. But if the sound starts sounding kind of janky, please do feel free to drop me a note in the comment. The square book is easier to keep in place. Yes and no, I guess. Something about the proportions just wouldn't work quite right. If you take a look at real life, if you had square books in real life, while it would be a lot easier to stack them and box them, it would actually be also more challenging to hang on to. I don't quite know why, but it seems to be that we've been trained for a comfort zone that has multiple, what's the word? It's something that's appealing to our eyes to not have things be perfectly square corners at all times. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 27, and I don't care if I got it wrong, 28, 29, 30. Okay, let's see how many rows we can get. Oh, good morning, Fantastic Sherlock Fox. Welcome on in. So we'll have, I'm just trying to measure up on this side. So let's go fence, fence, 2 gap, and then some more fence, fence, 3. Oh, wall in the back. 3, 4. Gap, gap. This one, I'm just kind of curious to see how many rows I'm going to get. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. The intent is to get a good amount of space with a double row in between. And if I end up with extra spaces for extra librarians, I may put extras of something else in there instead. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Sir? Thank you. Let's go 2. That should work. All right. There we go. Now, a lot of these blocks will have to be rearranged in direction and so forth. I have not figured out yet whether I want to go with planks or strip logs. Definitely soliciting opinions on that. Actually, let's see how many. 2. Wow. 2, 4, 6, 8. Of course. It does not work. 2, 6, 4. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, that should have been 60 blocks. So that's a little bit short. At this rate, I'll probably put my entire villager set in here. That actually might be even easier to start with that as the trading hall. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What? 14. 15. Hopefully there, Fantastic Sherlock Fox, your morning isn't too crazy busy for you. And of course, I lost count. Yay! Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Gap, gap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gap, gap. 1, 2. Yay, okay. Yeah, Fantastic Sherlock Fox has been chasing down some kind of busy, bit of a busy work sort of stream. People sometimes in his line of work tend to make far more of a mountain out of a molehill than absolutely necessary. And he spends a lot of time having to go and explain why things aren't a big deal after all. So I would not want to envy him that position. I remember doing a lot of that when I used to work tech support. Not one of my favorite things to be doing. That is, explain why things aren't a big deal when people are panicking. Oh, hush. So, but yeah, actually, one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is taking the video that we had from Saturday for the dragon fight. I've pulled it off Twitch temporarily, and we'll be putting it back up as an edited video. We had some fun, but we had a bit of conversation in there that probably doesn't really need to be there, and the video got kind of long for anybody who wants to video on demand. I don't think we really need to have a whole 2 hours of myself and a few others not finding Ender cities, and never being there when somebody else in the team who'd gone a different direction did find a city. So, can't win them all, but It's definitely something that will also give you some editing practice. It's a living. Well, which reminds me, actually, related to the Flintstones, sort of, strange connection at least, is that we had picked up, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 47, 8, 50. I will get to the end of that sentence in just a second. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So we had picked up a new to us Durango at the beginning of the month, Dodge Durango, and it's one of the 7-seater SUVs. But the reason we picked it up, and we had actually traded our Hyundai Santa Fe for it, but we traded it in because we had decided that we would like to be able to tow. We're looking at getting into travel trailers, or for you across the ponds, caravanning, and just one of those adventures that part of it was spurred a little bit by the pandemic, and part of it was liking to go to places where we could do things like hiking and so forth, maybe some beach time, that sort of thing, and then not necessarily having to eat out or rent like a hotel room or something like that. It saves just a little bit of coin and gets us the abilities to get far or a little bit further out into the bush. So we're looking at that. We actually have a nice little Honda Ridgeline truck that we quite like, but its tow capacity is kind of sad. I mean, it's only about, ballparking wise, it's only about 5,000 pounds, which doesn't really leave you a whole lot of room for being able to choose which item you tow. So, pardon me. So, that did not help a whole lot. So we decided to move up to the Durango, and so far we like it. It's fairly comfy. It's a worse on the environment, which I mean is something that neither Fantastic Sherlock Fox or I are happy about. But you can't necessarily have everything both ways at this point in time. I mean, technology, there are some vehicles that are getting better at towing, but not a whole ton of them. And we looked at other things. I mean, one of the more common ones you hear about everywhere is the Ford F-150 as a tow truck or towing truck. Some are dyed-in-the-wool people for one brand or the other. We're not really. We just look for the purpose vehicle for what we want to do. And when it came down to it, we actually almost had ourselves sold on the idea of an F-150 truck. Unfortunately, by the time you added the larger cab to accommodate taking the family rather than having a second vehicle, then maybe I'll have to make just a touch bigger. But rather than adding the second vehicle, or second vehicle, the larger cab to that, and then you had to deal with tow package additions and a few other things that we felt were quite necessary for our purposes. It actually started messing with the tow capacity in such a way that it actually wouldn't have been able to pull quite as much as what we were already being able to tow. So it wasn't as much of an advantage to us as we really would have liked. There we go. All right. So I was thinking, I've had an offer to be able to go and spend some time at a skeleton farm built probably by, I believe, Brian, aka Stoner Miner. And so I may do that. And I'm thinking in that case, the library will probably end up having a couple of layers of wood on the outside for like a book cover. And then for sort of arching up, we'll actually have bone blocks as the pages. Okay. And then of course we'll need a bit of a small tunnel through the middle area as a spine. So that's, still have to figure out where that is yet. That's where we're going to put the doors to get into the library. But at some point, I mean, I may actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. I may actually end up going to the Nether and scooping up some of the lava block and just building a little fish farm over yonder. We actually have some water. I think this way might be part of the ocean, but down in this direction, on the other side of the village, we do have what appears to be a river. So that's a handy place to be. And it's still throwing me every once in a while that I get out to the savannah and discover that it's overcast and dark, and I walk just a few blocks further, and it's raining on my head. So definitely something I'm getting used to. But at least I now know what the cause was, because it was feeling kind of strange. There we go. That should be a good start. How many do we have across this way? 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. And how many sets? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Wow, this is bigger than I thought. 7, 8, 9. Okay, 10 by 10. Perfect. 2. So yeah, one of the things that we're looking at is being able to get out of Dodge. The advantage to having a larger unit. 1, 2, 3. Count again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're right in here. One of the advantages to being able to tow a larger unit is that when we do go out on trips, then Fantastic Sherlock Fox has more opportunity to be able to, I guess you'd say, work from home, so to speak. I mean, he does work in just another room in our house, actually. But being able to work while we're on vacation allows us a little bit more opportunity, where I can take the kids out during the day if he has meetings or something that are unavoidable, and then we can meet up with him later in the day. Or we can do something like a beach time, and then he'll join us for the afternoon when he's finished his meetings. It makes it a lot easier for us to have that flexibility. But in the last couple of years, it's been a bit more challenging to get hold of rental trailer units from people that we would like to try out, but also in terms of being able to find camping spots, because with COVID restrictions, far more people are being encouraged to, I guess you could say, get out of Dodge at home. So either staycations or nearby vacations, so that they're not actually leaving the country. And I can't measure. That's okay. So by doing so, it means that a lot of times the good vacation spots are booked up. So when you know in advance that you can actually book a slot, or you've got more flexibility to be able to figure out which trailers people are willing to rent to you and when they're available, then it makes it a lot easier to make those bookings. It's actually kind of funny, because even before COVID, some of our provincial parks were getting to the point where they would open up some of the bookings in January for the start of the season, and those were gone within hours. And it's getting to the point where people will stay up or get up super early just to be able to make it at the beginning of the bookings. 2 reasons for that, I suspect. And one would be that there's just so many more people booking, and some want to get the prime spots. But one of the other reasons I would suspect has a lot to do with the fact that for multiple years in a row, our government has been relatively terrible. Has been relatively terrible at making sure our websites for this sort of thing don't crash, but they regularly do. So in essence, it's almost a race to see if you can get in ahead of the crash, because that results in all sorts of things like your sessions timing out and so on. Now let's take a look here. That's looking a little bit skewed. I'd say it probably needs to be shorter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think if I cut it off just past this one with the two-tone, that proportionally might look a bit more normal. It's going to be a bit of a long book, but at least it won't be quite so wide. Oh, yeah, I'm okay with talking about the rough ages of my kids. My son is 10 and will be 11 in April, and my daughter is 8 until July, so they're a great age right now, but sometimes we forget how old they are because they're both quite swift. So that means that every once in a while they act beyond what we expect, and so stuff will pop up. But and they're both, as far as ages go, they're both in Canada. They would be in Cub Scouts. I believe the ages are similar in the United States in their Scouts BSA, but in Canada the Cub Scouts runs from 8 to 10. So we do some of that, and that's where we get a lot of our tenting in. We're considering doing some car camping this summer, but the big key is that the kids still seem to enjoy their Cub Scout camping. So that's where they get the most of the poor weather camping. And I mean, for us, if it turns super cold or super snowy, we'd say forget it, throw up our hands and go home as a family. Whereas in Scouts, it becomes just one of those ones where you bundle up, dress up, and off you go. Shorter? Actually, I think I like shorter, just past the greens. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, just past the green. Okay. A little bit too big, but that's okay. You build it up and you tear it down. Sorry. There we go. So yeah, I actually, as everybody has probably heard by now, I'm actually a Scout leader as well. So thankfully I'm not the one on the pointy end of the stick, so I'm not a Kayla. But definitely kind of fun to see the kids learn and grow, and see the things they learn. Wow, was I ever big? Let's see, does that look better? I think I like that better. I like to see what they do. I find 8 and 10 is a really cool age because one is just on the age-wise. It means one is just on the upper end of being in the first, I guess, the first 3 real grades. I don't count kindergarten, but at the upper end of the first 3 grades, whereas the other one is smack in the middle of the next batch, or as some areas call it, the Division 2. And it's neat because my son's got a very technical teacher, like a very science-minded teacher, so he's been getting to play with all sorts of cool things, like his teacher's got a Raspberry Pi computer that they're able to use, which has some games and stuff on it. They do, for some of their extra projects, or extra fun projects, they get to do some coding in a program called Scratch. So he's learning a little bit of computer coding that way. He also gets to play with, or in the class they've done assignments involving something called an Ozobot, which apparently knows how to follow a path that you put on the floor, and the color codes that you draw on paper will actually tell it as a path to follow, or would it also tell it how to behave? So the color changing will make a big difference. Hey there, Slogan Pro. Alex, how are you doing today? Scratch. Sounds like something you eat. You know, we make bread from scratch. We make cookies from scratch. I wonder what scratch tastes like. Actually, that might be an interesting product for somebody to create one day, is just to build some scratch and just like brand name something as scratch. I mean, we make so much stuff out of flour. Maybe that's the key there, is make a wheat flour product and call it Scratch Brand. So, and actually, it's funny that you should find that interesting, Zerk, that they're learning in Scratch or computer coding in general. I was quite surprised when my kids both over the break, the switched to online for COVID starting in 2019. We'd been poking around, and they said they'd really enjoyed computer club at school. So I thought that I wanted to find them something they could do that was similar, and at the time didn't know what program system they'd been using at school. So I tripped across something called Tinker, and at the time they really took to it and quite liked it. It's one of the ways that you can actually create things for different programs and games, and you can design your own stuff. I mean, really, it's at the moment, I think the stuff that my daughter's using is what's the word? I was going to say object coding, but that doesn't make any sense. but she's got little blocks, I guess, coding via blocks. But it definitely does talk about basic computer concepts, and some of them, you know, nested code and so forth, and if, then, while, that sorts of stuff. And not getting all nerdy, but I was really quite surprised when she took to it enough that we actually bought her a premium membership to the account to unlock absolutely everything she can do as one of her Christmas presents, and she quite liked it, actually, because she's been making little game mazes, and she's made some... She really enjoys making some strange stuff for Minecraft. So we had a slime that looks sort of like a bee, which makes hopping, squelchy noises. And then she's got bats that actually look like little mini vampires, which I think is kind of cool. There's a few other funky things that she's been doing there. So I was quite surprised initially in that the rest of her class is still the sort of kids that are into like little couple-inch high LOL dolls and unicorns, and when she reads, she's into stuff like My Little Pony, which is totally cool, but I mean, it's more of an age-appropriate thing, and I was just pleased and excited that she was enjoying the tinker enough that it was worth actually getting her subscription. So we'll have to see if the interest lasts, but I'm hoping it'll be at least a year. So, yeah, Raspberry Pis are awesome. We don't actually own one in the house yet, but I would not be surprised if that made it in at some point, once the kids if they demonstrate an interest to actually try and play with them a little bit more. But I figure, to start with, though, they're enjoying the bots at school, or my son's enjoying the bots at school. It's also kind of neat because when, prior to COVID, this particular grade 5 teacher was actually doing things where they're showing the kids stop motion and green screening and things like that. And I thought, well, that was kind of an interesting take because a lot of kids don't necessarily get that opportunity. But one of the few challenges we've had in that school was just more that some of the teachers are really technical and some of them are not, and some of them are just, I should say, rabbit tracks teachers, which means they're excellent as teachers, but in terms of in terms of the materials they use, my son's teacher, being so technical, has got the class using Chromebooks or iMacs or iPads at school. Like the school owns a class set of them. The challenge is, unfortunately, I'm going to need some. That's going to be interesting. The challenge is that the class has been seen by some of the other classes at the same grade as being a little bit, how do you say it, spoiled or elitist, just because they've been using the computers a lot. And from what I understand, they're not necessarily hogging them or bogarting them, but the other teachers aren't asking for the class computers. Where this gets to be a problem is that some of the kids in the other classes are becoming envious of my son's class because they appear to get to use the computers a lot. Specifically, the whole school has access to educational Minecraft, but when it looks like one class may be using it more than others, then of course that's not an even assessment. Here. Okay. So I had made a minor mistake and did not pay attention to the state of my axe, which unfortunately meant that I had blown up my Silk Touch axe. I had no bother with getting a diamond one just yet, even though I have villagers that'll do Silk Touch and mending books. I'm a little short on iron at this point in time, so I was being super careful with the anvil and just going with a mending iron axe, but it looks like I've blown that one up and don't quite have enough to be able to get a diamond one just yet. But that's okay. You win some, you lose some. I do have a Silk Touch book kicking around in my chest, so when I get a new axe, then I'll just put Silk Touch on it. Actually, I'll probably put mending on it first and then Silk Touch. we'll see. I'm not really sure which one I'm going to do first, because if I still touch the melons, it's definitely worth it. Munchies. Yeah. This morning I was being kind of lazy and I debated skipping my breakfast entirely, but then I knew I'd get munchy during stream, and that's just definitely not something that anybody wants to be hearing. ASMR is one thing. Giving yourself the munchies during stream and wanting something crunchy or making licking noises is just not. Honestly, it gives me a bit of the willies. Not quite nails on a blackboard grade, but it just makes me squirm a little bit. Though on that note, excuse me just 1 second, time to hydrate. Alrighty. Yeah, I guess blank walls are probably not the world's most interesting material. What do I have here? 31, that should be enough. Get me started. Do you too, sir? Do you feel like giving me some emeralds today? Oh, you're back to 6. Stinky deal! Really? Now you're 5. Oh, of course. Okay, well, 5 will do. No, not today. So, let's see if we can get ourselves a new axe. Okay, so I'd love to have, that's the other option. I'm breaking 2 and fortune 1, but of course 25. Nice shovel. 16, of course. Oh, we're back. Back to where we started. I made a mistake, if I poke around my chest you'll see it, where I had actually, yes, thank you, where I had actually gone ahead and bought a number of bells from that gentleman, and then I realized that was rather silly, because if I want any return on what I'm doing, it was actually more effective to, there we go, to go ahead and, hold on, okay, sorry, it was more effective to go ahead and buy the cheap axes and then get some return on it by attempting to smelt them down. I know it's only a nugget a pop, but hey, it's better than a kick in the pants right now. There we go. So now that I've got Silk Touch on this one, then I can take out some of these. We'll definitely get back to working on the library, but at the moment, I think I might like to have an axe that won't disappear on me. So I found it, it's a slow way to go, and I just haven't bothered doing a whole lot of mining right now, because I was really hoping to get villagers traded up to get a diamond pick and potentially, well, diamond shovel and all that sort of stuff before I headed in to the holes underneath to light them up and mine what's down there. Kind of an experiment, I guess, because I haven't had an opportunity in the past to be able to spend it with the villagers. I've often had a villager trading hall and so forth, and I've moved into villages in the past, but using that as my main form of getting materials has not been something I've done before, at least not quite to this extent. So just trying something a little different this time around, I guess we could say. But it is kind of interesting when I get surprised from time to time by the differences in leveling up the villagers, or between what happens for Java versus what happened for Bedrock. Now, granted, my memory of things is a little faulty on a regular basis, but when I was in Bedrock, I could have sworn I needed to have 2 different armors in order to get all 4 major armor pieces. But this time I was quite surprised that I started with leveling 2 of them up, and lo and behold, I only needed 1 to get full set of diamond. So I went ahead with the second one anyways, just because, you know, luck of the draw to get better choices of armor. Okay, let's see. Sir, are you going to give me something decent today? 8. There's some. Are you... is that you? Oh, yeah. Excellent. 27. Fiddlesticks, now I have to remember which one. Actually, let's just do what we did before. I think this is going to work out. 27. That might have been enough. For the fortune axe. Or the efficiency one. What are you? 25. You'll do. Not slick touch, but you'll do. Alrighty. So, where are we? Okay. Let's get back to work. I can't remember where I was story-wise. As I've said before, that train has left the station. So in terms of the book, I think I'm liking it a little bit more chopped off here. The proportions look a little bit more normal to me, so I'm actually going to take out the extras. There we go. And then one of the things I had done in Java before was played around a little bit with stripped logs. So I think I'm going to go with this, stripping the dark oak logs as sort of the cover of the book, and then worry about the proportions for arches and so forth. That way it lays a little bit flatter like a book cover might. But yeah, I'm going to have to try and figure out how to do arches, which is a new thing for me. That's okay, you know, you live, you learn, you try something new. Let's see, how close are we? And of course the bed's right in the way. Love it. Do I need these? No, let's just beat them up. Yeah. Oh, did I? Yeah. Okay. So, here's not what I wanted to do, but that's okay. Let's see. Gap. 1, 2. And this will be the back wall. All right. Oops. So, oops. I can't remember what I was going to say. Norky big. So tomorrow's plan is, although we've got this project underway, tomorrow's plan for the stream is to do some Planet Zoo. So we're doing a little bit of that, checking out some of the creatures we've got going. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick up where I left off with a scenario that I was working on, or not a scenario, sorry, a career path element I was working on, or whether I'm going to start, might be actually worth it to start a franchise zoo. I haven't done that before, but also give me a chance to take a look at some of the newer packs they've got going. The last 2 that were released were a North American creatures pack with things like beavers, and excuse me, and then they've released a European creatures pack, which unfortunately for the life of me I can't remember exactly what the creatures in that one were. They tend to release about 5 animals at a time when they do the packs, but they also release a lot of decorative elements and so forth. So that's a little bit of chitter chatter and just playing around with cute animals. So yeah. One of the other things I'm still looking at is coming up with a few more ideas for or mystery book characters. Now, I'm trying to stick to ones I've actually read or heard a lot about, but not critical, I guess, is where I'm going with that. And so we've got ideas. I was trying to figure out the other day, working out a little bit how to build a very large typewriter. And the idea on that was doing some Murder, She Wrote style stuff for like the character that Angela Lansbury made famous on television. Apparently she played that for 12 years. And so I figured it might be appropriate to try and build a bit of a classic typewriter for that one. But the scale I'm looking at is... Sorry, you don't like the book. My apologies. Maybe you might want to read something else. Maltese Falcon, perhaps? In any case... Oops. In any case, so she made that fairly famous. I thought that might be kind of fun, but the scale I'm looking at would have a keyboard key being about the size of a slab. So that design is good, but it means if you're going to do a full-on typewriter size, you've got quite a lot of space to work with. And of course, another thing I need to look at is the era, because over the course of the series, the character moved from using a classic metallic typewriter through to then she used like an electric one, and then she went on to towards the end she actually had a word processor. I can't remember if it looked more like a Commodore computer or if it actually ended up looking like something else, but definitely was not her classic typewriter style, which is something she's a little bit more known for, so I think I might stick with that. Hey buddy, knock 3 times in the ceiling if you want to meet me. Okay. You're noisy. So in any case, that's one. Another one that we're going to be working on, and I'm looking forward to, is a very large chair. Nothing super fancy, but maybe something along the lines of like a Lazy Boy style or something similar, to represent the rather large and rotund Nero Wolf character by Rick Sout. And I figured that was probably a little bit easier. There'll be a bit of an orchid theme possibly nearby, but looking at that and trying to decide what sort of materials to use in that one. So those are probably the next two coming up after the library, after the book. On deck we also have... We need to get back to the topic of food. Well, I mean, on that note, we also have Sherlock Holmes coming in, and probably going to do something very basic like a large magnifying glass, because that's one of the other things he's stereotypically known for, in spite of it not being super accurate. But it had amused me because at Christmas I'd honestly thought about taking apart one of the short stories known as The Blue Carbuncle. And that one just involves cooking a goose, and when the goose had to be cooked because it was found, I guess you could say, it had a very large gemstone in it known as a blue carbuncle, which is basically, it's like a ruby, part of the ruby family as I understand it, but they don't naturally come in blue, so that was definitely a fabrication for the story. Yeah, definitely an unusual feature of it, and it's typically known as the only Christmas Sherlock Holmes story. There's nothing else that references any other holiday in the book as far as I'm aware, so that's something a little bit different. Okay, I think because I'm going to need the interior space, I think we might actually need to go out one more. On this one, so we can get some angles going here. Second row with an edge to it, so I can get the interior space I'm going to need. So yeah, it's one of the more popular Christmas story pieces that seem to be from that era of the late Victorian period, both in terms of setting and in terms of when it was written. I'm debating, do I go dig down to this level all the way around, or do I build up to this level? It's all a matter of effort. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Well, I'll have to dig dirt either way, so it doesn't really matter, I suppose. Let's go down. Dang it! Yeah. Well, there's a dang it for you. No shovel. Let's go see if I have some junk shovels kicking around. There we go. So, I actually had some shovels. I had one of those, the diamond shovel you saw, and I had a whack of... There we go. Definitely have some junk shovels. I had a whack of the trash kicking around as well. Meaning, sorry. Can't think straight today. Had a couple of iron ones and some other stuff, bits and bobs, but it did not work out after I lost all that in the end. You know, it's not a big deal, but it just means it's something that's gotta be rectified. So I'll put that up there just in case. I don't need saplings or seeds. Oh, right. It goes over there. I don't need... Actually, let's just get rid of this sucker now. Why not? Very good question, Zerk, actually. I will admit I have not seen the Kenneth Branagh version of Murder on the Orient Express. I've heard many good things about it. Though I'm partial to the couple of the previous versions of Murder on the Orient Express. Sorry about that. But the versions I'm partial to actually have specifically David Suchet when he did Murder on the Orient Express for the Agatha Christie Mysteries, I believe it was. And the other version I liked was, I can't remember if it's the 70s or the 80s, but starring either Peter Ustinov or the version with Albert Finney. And what did I just do? Oh, through stuff. There you go. Both of those were a lot of fun. I mean, I know Peter Ustinov is definitely not the scrawny little Belgian that a lot of people picture, but he definitely played the part in a way that was, without being send-up, it was still quite a lot of fun. So that I'm partial to those, but my favorite Poirot is actually David Suchet. I do intend to see the Kenneth Branagh ones at some point. But I'm a little bothered by the campiness of the costume choices. Particularly the mustache. I know they make a big deal out of it in the books, but then it doesn't take over everything, whereas Kenneth Branagh took that to the extreme. So I'm a little biased in that respect. Well, more than a little. But I mean, that would not prevent me from seeing it, as Branagh did a half-decent job. Well, not half-decent, more than that. I quite like a lot of his work, but he's become in a way the Michael Flatley of some of the productions, and it can be a little bit off-putting for me at times. A couple more shovels. Yeah, it can be a little off-putting at times when we spend more time worrying about his diction or his emphasis in the where he puts his syllables and so on. Whereas it sort of takes away from the story when you like that. On the other hand, as I said, it's something that's definitely on my to-watch list. But it's funny because there's so many things that I've got that I can watch these days that I just haven't really put in the effort to see everything and catch up. And it's been a while since I've seen the ABC murders. I do recall quite liking them. and it is one that I definitely will rewatch. But also, I mean, as we mentioned, I'm horrible for faces and names, so there's plenty for me to be rewatching from lots of stuff from Prime and so on. And not just because I forgot the title, but also being able to say which is which. Though it's definitely material that I intend to be able to comment on in future as we go through these builds, of course. The book, it's not quite so critical because it's just mostly going to be a library thing, and it's for I guess you'd say every character. But as we go through, like when I'm building the typewriter, I may be going on a Murder, She Wrote kick. When I'm doing the armchair, I might be on a Nero Wolf kick and watching some of the ones that were made for A&E. The A&E Nero Wolf series was quite good. Or A&E being Arts and Entertainment. At least that's what they called it in Canada. I don't know what they called it elsewhere. So that's the sort of thing. I really love to do an Agatha Christie Poirot themed build, as well as an Agatha Christie build for Miss Jane Marple. Unfortunately, at this time, I'm not really sure what would best represent them. I could do the mustache, as we suggested. Brenna's was definitely over the top, and they've got some really nice logos of the mustache and monocle from some of the Arts and Entertainment Poirot productions, so that is definitely an option. But I was hoping to do something a little different than my carpet art to begin with. And we could change that up. I mean, there's nothing that says I can't do it carpet art style, but I'm hoping that would be more of a last resort. Miss Jane Marple was actually more known for her knitting when she went places. She took her knitting with her and being a nosy little busybody. So that one's going to be a bit more challenging, only in that scale-wise, it's difficult to get a half-decent looking, say, knitting ball of yarn in a sphere or something to actually look good in Minecraft. Your scale needs to be rather enormous to make it really recognizable. Or you can build the sphere and just call it a ball of yarn, and then the knitting needles become a problem. So it's just something else I've got to work on a little further. There also are a few other mysteries that I had originally wanted to reference, but then decided that they weren't. They were a little darker than I wanted to. So, for example, I was looking at doing one of Anne Perry's Thomas Pitt novels. I think it's Anne Perry. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, unfortunately, no, it's not Anne Perry. It's P.D. James novels I was thinking of that I decided not to do because the few that I had read were very much not family friendly. So that one got struck off the list rather quickly. But so we'll see if there's a few other ones, and I mean there may be some references to, hard-boiled private detective sort of thing, just a little bit more spoof, tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. Like I'm looking at suggestions such as somebody said a fedora hat, which is a little bit beyond my skill at this point, but we'll see if I can come up with a design. And that would be either a fedora hat or a wristwatch for comic detective Dick Tracy. And I don't really know if I'd qualify that as mystery literature per se, but it definitely has some mystery element to it. So, yeah. There's all kinds of places that we could go with this one. And I mean, at the rate I build, in all honesty, the season could be over before I get beyond the 3 or 4 extra builds that I've already discussed. For all I know, I mean, we'll find out when we get there, sort of thing. So, yeah. But I mean, the other thing is if anyone has any suggestions or ideas along the way or something they would like to see done or added, please do let me know. I'm not much into human statues, just I'm a little bit particular about how they look. And it's not in a critical sense for anyone else. It's more that I get critical of myself when I try to build human statues. So that's unlikely to be a part of the work, but that could change by request, I guess we could say. So I'm actually admitting I enjoy the streaming. This is something new that or should say new. This is something that I had not expected to enjoy as much as I am. So it's great to find what could be considered a new hobby, or new to me hobby. Gaming isn't new. I've been doing that for a while, but new to me hobby. And I've never really been great at gaming. Part of it, as we've seen, is because I squirrel rather heavily. Oh, hello, Mr. Skeleton. Yeah, so I squirrel rather heavily, and sometimes things become higher priority, or they get interrupted, and streaming is one of those ways that I can just enjoy myself a little bit more. Give myself a new challenge. Content create. As I said before, it's one of those things. So I had oh, yes. See? Squirrel. Yeah, last season I had built a fire station on bedrock that was whole. That was modeled somewhat after the original fire station from Ghostbusters. And that was actually fun. It was big. Very, very big. The season before that, I did Java and had built a couple. Really, nothing major happened at my base. That was all that worth writing home about. But in the shopping district, I built a very, very, shall we say, very large flower. So that was made up as a flower shop at the top. But yeah, the whole thing was built. Majority of it was built out of wool, and I'm not a fan of heights. It's almost as bad as my dislike of spiders. So trying to build a flower I shouldn't say at scale, but very tall, and then figuring out how to do the petals was, yeah, seems like there's something new every season, new to me at least. So yeah, I'm not necessarily into very large scale builds on the whole, but once you build something and then get fussy about how many details you have, then it starts to look a little particular. There ends up being a way I like things to look that I didn't even realize was a big deal to me until I started building. I like it when people decorate the inside. I like that when people decorate the inside of their builds as well as the outside of their builds. It makes for a much more interesting to me tourist experience. And I will never take away from people who want to use items to represent other items, such as like I've seen in shops people use, say, a stair to represent a cash register or something like that. And seriously, more power to them. Like, I totally support that. So both small and large are great ways of doing things. I just figure if the focus itself is, say, the cash register or the typewriter or whatever, then if one's making a model to represent that, I like it to be a little bit bigger than there. I mean, if I was to put a sign, a random sign, pardon me, in the middle of nowhere that just had a stair and the sign said, you know, Agatha, or Murder, She Wrote, Sarah oh, jeepers creepers. Anyways, Jessica Fletcher, that I would not be satisfied with that. So, yeah, that's where I sit today. Yay. So I've decided to take a detour and actually spend the money on a half-decent shovel. More because I can rather than need to. Just gives me a bit of a break from digging up the dirt. I had to be careful the other day. It was interesting. I get motion sick when people do a lot of side-to-side stuff, and I was playing the game and doing a lot of farming side to side, of course, and got myself feeling kind of nauseous, which is not common for me to do. It's usually happening when I watch others, because I'm not the one in control of the motion. But this time, I really got myself feeling quite queasy. So I'm just cross my fingers that doesn't end up happening during stream, otherwise we may end up with a sudden game change in the middle. Hopefully it won't happen, but you never know. Ugh. Shake your head, Delenn, and do this properly. Properly. There we go. I have Silk Touch Axe for a reason. Much better. I'm sure I'm not maximizing the field, and I should probably be obtaining some redstone and making observers and pistons and so on for a self-harvesting field. But it's just one of those things that once I get myself a little bit more established, I won't be doing this farming portion on stream. I mean, it's passable, but I spent 2.5 hours running back and forth with farming and converting it yesterday and last week, and it does get kind of boring for a while, even for me. So we don't want to be boring myself and you guys at the same time. At least I've gotten to a point where you turn around and the pumpkins and melons are all starting to regrow on their own. So I mean, at least we're at that point. There we go. If I'm going to be doing a conversion, I might as well get it over with and grab some food while I'm at it. Oops. Hello, sir. Are you still cheap? Yes, thankfully. Excuse me just a second, I think I might sneeze. It just occurred to me, actually, while I was muting and unmuting the mic here, that I've got myself a couple of buttons now. I mean, I don't necessarily use them a whole lot, but I definitely have got those sorts of things going now, so hopefully we'll be able to have a little bit more fun with that portion in the future. I'm just going to get in the house here so I can free up one of my hands. But we've got the spell. We've got this one. Let's see if this works.
I've always wanted to use that spell.
Yeah, so that's one of the little video pieces that I've got. It happens to be the same one as my command on DadCraft73's stream. And we've got a couple other little ones that we can use. When I said something incredibly dumb, you might get this one.
Shouldn't have said that.
Or possibly this version.
I shouldn't have told you that. I should not have told you that.
And if those didn't come through, feel free to let me know. But it's something I'm starting to play with and see how things go. Let's see, 11. Not quite enough, but hey, it'll get me going. Ooh, actually, we were digging. That's what it was. See, squirrel. 48. Why did I not convert all of those? That's really odd. Okay, so yeah, I need to play with a lot of these sounds. Just because they blow my own ears out doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else can hear them, so. I was actually quite concerned about them being too loud because we've had some interesting issues with a T-Rex sound in other people's streams, and I didn't want to end up having a similar challenge on this side. But, yeah, so I mean, things will take a little bit of tweaking to get used to. To be honest, I actually have a stream deck, and for the vast majority of the time, I don't even remember to press a button. So, it just seems like there's a lot to think about all at once. You never know where things are going to go. And I scrolled again, which is part of where I lost that train of thought too. Woohoo! It just left the station. Alright. But yeah, so we're working on some sounds, and if there's any particular interesting ones, I'm still looking for good scenarios to use them in. And some more cute little videos to put together and stuff like that. I'm on the hunt for some good clips for the various characters that I'm building things for. So at the moment, I'm looking around for things like a couple library book themed clips, possibly something along the lines of Harry Potter, Hermione again, or I might throw in there Conan the Librarian with something like your book being overdue, because that spoof is a lot of fun, making fun of Schwarzenegger's acting in Conan the Barbarian. So that's one of those things that will be happening, is hopefully a few themed buttons here and there. But the important part is to make sure that everything stays functional and I don't get too distracted, scrolled again by the buttons. The buttons, oh so shiny buttons. Or we like to, in our house, we tease a little bit about how people pronounce things in streams occasionally. There's another streamer that we were watching the other day from Valheim with our family who loves to say schmelting, as though it's SCHM for schmelting instead of the proper spelling SM for smelting. And so we thought that was kind of amusing, but there's also in some of the Disney shows, we like to mock the pronunciation of the word button, but that's only because certain portions of the United States say something along the lines of like button, and they just don't even have much of a consonant to it at all. Which shows up in Doc McStuffins, and in that show, it starts to sound a little bit out of place when she's talking about fixing the buttons on people's toys. I try not to do too many impressions in stream, though. The reason for that is that my family has a strange habit. Sorry, distraction. So my family has a strange habit when we've been talking to people, we pick up either turns of phrase or pronunciations in the way they've been saying things. Case in point, my kids and I often will now be using the term that our inventory is jacked up. Or if I've been talking to someone in a tech support situation, I used to say that I would ring them back, just because I would start hearing that from some of the across the pond individuals. We are. Yeah, I would hear that one from individuals across the pond and not want to bring that one home. There is no right or wrong way to say things. I think what seems correct or incorrect is a lot to do with regional preferences. And what you're used to hearing in your regional area. So, for example, my brother years and years ago went to the United Kingdom, and he was on a work abroad program, student work abroad program, and during that, I'm not quite sure what you would call it, but he developed a bit of what we would call in our house English. So it was that sort of Canadian accent, which for some people can get mistaken as American, and yet definitely is not. But you add to that a bunch of British pronunciations of things, and it's not even words that were unfamiliar. I mean, they're words that we were perfectly familiar with, but he just started saying them the British way. So he'd phone home, and it'd be a strange accent combination. And of course, then he became, I guess we could call it a Britophile or a Brit fan with regards to television. Classics like Doctor Who and so forth, and Monty Python. And while those are great series, hearing some of those mocked in a Canadian accent definitely was a unique experience. Yeah, so. Oh, I guess I have a little bit of rubber banding today. Yay! So, but yeah, getting those mocked in Canadian accent happened. The other poor example that we used to have, growing up, my father was actually a magician, like children's magician by trade, birthday parties and company barbecues and the like. And the result was that you could tell when he'd been talking to a Middle Eastern family or someone of more of an Indian, Pakistani background. And they would have made a booking or something and along the lines, and then he'd get off the phone and start sounding a little bit like that, or he'd pick it up while he's on the phone, even if he'd stop afterwards. Which we said, you need to be careful. You might be getting a little bit offensive to these people. And he didn't even know what he was doing. Like, he didn't know that it was happening. He just started pronouncing things with a bit of a strangeness their way. And it was not a good scene. Okay. Going. Durability alone, I think, because I keep making the mistake and using the diamond axe on everything as opposed to just on the pumpkins, I'm thinking maybe I should probably pony up the cash for a Silk Touch book on the axe, on the diamond axe, with the additional durability, and that way we can stop making that mistake and ending up with far less usage out of the melons than necessary. So yeah, anyways, in any case, the point where I was trying to get to is that sometimes we can pick up accents like that. I don't intend to do it, but there's a slim chance it might slip in during stream. So collabs can be a lot of fun, but also dangerous. And the other reason I mentioned it is because sometimes, depending on what I've been watching, I'll pick up some stuff. I don't usually pronounce things way out to lunch. Like, I'm not going to be, picking up on, most likely at least, not the pronunciations of our Australian friends or our South African friends in most cases. No promises. I mean, that mistakes happen, but it's not intentional if that sort of thing happens. You just, if I've been watching, say, YouTube or television of a particular style, then I may end up picking up some of those. Silk Touch book. Oh, might help to have books. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Spanglish. Yeah, I mean, we've a lot of us have heard the classic English when you see slightly off grammar or off grammar, off spelling stuff from foreign parts when they've done manufacturing on behalf of North American or European English companies. You start to see some funky spellings of things. And it's not quite that bad because we don't have a lot of the letter challenges. Although you won't get things like aluminium. That's not one of those ones that I tend to use, although every once in a while, I mean, I'll use it if I'm intending to be funny. It doesn't necessarily mean it's ha-ha funny, but if I'm intending to be a little bit teasing, I guess, I may use a word like that, but that's referring to, like, when you have a tinfoil hatter type of individual. Yes, huh? When you have a tinfoil hat situation with individuals, where they're being a little bit extreme, then they may be wearing an aluminium hat, or I should buy them a stock in an aluminium company, but I'm not commonly doing that sort of thing. Because if someone was to do that about me, I'd probably find it slightly offensive, so that's why I don't want to do it to others. What did I... Oh, yes, well, of course. That would make sense. Alright, save that for later then. So, oops. In terms of being rusty, you can definitely see that I forgot that with that combination of Unbreaking and Fortune already on the pick, it's not going to let me put on a Silk Touch. It would be nice if I could just strip just the Fortune, but yeah, that would be wishful thinking. Which means then, hindsight 2020, I probably should have spent the emeralds on... probably should have spent the emeralds on a mending book instead, but axes are cheap. Okay, where have we gotten to? Dirt. Brrr, YouTube. You know, I haven't bothered, but I would love to get that zombie sound briefly replaced. There's in DadCraft's community, there was a sound clip floating around where one of his other streaming Discord members, who went by the name Spitfire, had decided to mock the zombies that were plaguing her villager breeder, and someone captured that and turned it into a sound clip, which then later on she started using as a button press style sound. But I was thinking it might be kind of fun once in a blue moon to be able to turn that change on and have my zombies all sound like Spitfire saying because it sounded kind of like a combination of a poor Coloradan who'd had something really unusual to eat, or yeah, I don't know, it's something that Spitfire did. It was a very unique take on that sound, so it just makes me think of her and laugh sometimes. But yeah, she had to cease streaming and cease gaming actually for a number of health reasons, so she's not around much anymore. So we're just about done digging this out for the layer 1. And if I stop digging holes in things, that might help. And you'll find, as I level things up, there are some things I should do and some things I probably should and won't do. And for example, like you probably won't catch me using anything more than about efficiency 4 on items. Possibly efficiency 5 depending on what the item is. But I don't combine those with speed on beacons and such, and the reason for that is just at my current skill level, I actually don't have enough control to not end up basically destroying the place with too much speed and chopping up or digging out anything and everything. Next thing you know, I'm in a hole with zombies or whatever else shooting at me, or climbing on me or whatever. And I don't really think anybody needs that pain. Not you, not me. So I would rather forego some of the extra speed and do things a little bit more the long way than end up wrecking the place and spending more time repairing than it was worth for the extra speed anyhow. But that's something that'll probably change over time if I actually care. I mean, because I find some of this more repetitive work to be a bit psychologically soothing, then I'm not too bothered when it doesn't quite go the way I originally intended. Yeah, that's gonna work better. Alright, so normal primal sounds. Not quite. I don't do it. Yeah. Goodness, Brian. You're probably one of the last people I would expect to be dealing with aluminum hats or aluminum hats, tinfoil, etc. Pretty grounded, down to earth. There we go. Now, while some people are all for building solid, some people are all for building hollow, a lot of it comes down to look for me. So, I mean, I will be putting in the extra row of stripped logs and stripping both sides. And just because I like the look on both the inside and the outside. And it also prevents me from having any surprises with regards to little visitors. Like, if anything I could do to prevent unwanted stuff, it's a good plan in my book. So if I got something like a baby zombie that found their way in, which I have had happen in one of my other builds, they went and hid under the 1 block high lip, and I just had a horrible time getting in there to get them out. So I figure probably in this case better to waste or put in the extra materials than not do so and regret it later. That one. Direction. Actually, let's take this one and change it that way. There we go. Okay. Yellow, you've got far more control with your tools than I do. On the Bedrock server last season, I can't remember what I was building. I think I was building a what's the word? I think I was building something around my portal. Oh no, it was digging out the hole for digging out the hole for the fire station. Thank you. And when I was doing so, I can't remember who it was that came to help, but anyways, I think it was CJ, but they put up a beacon and said, yeah, here, why don't you use this efficiency 5 shovel with the beacon? This will be so much faster. And I promptly fell into a cave and got eaten by zombies. So, yeah, not high. Well, it's actually kind of funny because that you would say that, Brian, about leaving holes for people so they don't end up suffocating in walls. I used to, when my kids and I played, I used to actually intentionally box them in right before they logged out. And that gave them two bonuses. Is one, they could get the protection so that when they logged in, they weren't instantly getting eaten up for breakfast by zombies, or which seems to be on my brain. But so they weren't instantly getting eaten. However, the other bonus to that, of course, was that it gave me the spacing I needed, so that when I built something, I would leave the little gaps that were the size of the I'd leave the gaps that were the size of the dirt buildings, and that really helped just building them, because then they could log in and be inside the dirt hut and nothing was going to get them. But then when I made the build, I could take that out and they would know that there would be an airspace when they logged back in, even if they had to chop their way out of something I'd built. So, yeah, it was helpful, I suppose. Maybe kind of, sort of. I don't know. They never complained, let's put it that way. But then they got to the point where they could fight mobs on their own, and I stopped doing that. So we haven't had any suffocation issues yet, but I would not be surprised if we do at some point. It's amazing when you're in a savanna and it's not going to rain on your head, that it can get dark rather surprisingly quickly. Where was I? Okay. You guys may not be able to hear it, but when I walk on this wood, I swear that this one gives me sort of a little bit of almost a squeaky faux villager sound. It's like, it reminds me a lot of the baby villagers when they kind of go in a higher pitch range than the adult villagers do. The baby villagers to me sound a lot like walking on these logs. All right. I suppose I'm hungry. I'm not walking so fast. I need to eat. Well, I'm not starving. And if I did end up actually starving and died because I did something dumb, at least I'm close to home. Yeah. I mean, to perpetuate a bit of a stereotype, it looks like I've got a bit of a Scotch upbringing going on here, where I'm just being a little bit too cheap to spend the emeralds on food if I don't have to right now. There we go. So I've got my carrot villagers, or my golden carrot villagers. I just haven't bothered actually going and buying golden carrots in a while. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Yeah, great. So with the resizing, and I think the door comes out about here. Excellent. Alright. I should probably take a quick break for some more munchies. Use up this axe while I'm at it. Actually, that one's got slip touch? No, I should not use that. Let's swap that completely out. Let's grab a few pumpkins. And hydrate. I'll be honest, I took the opportunity to hydrate when I had to sneeze, so we're okay. Hydrating is funny though when you've got a head cold. At least for myself, there'll be times where I will be incredibly thirsty and don't get sticky mouth at all. And then other times where I've had a drink and that seems to trigger sticky mouth. It's just really strange. But I've run myself out of coffee and I'm okay with that. I'm finding I love my Yeti mug. There's no complaints there. I would happily buy another one in a heartbeat. But the disadvantage is that it takes me long enough to drink my coffee in the morning that I used to happily have 2 cups a day. But now if I was actually to finish 2 cups a day, I would be probably finishing at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, which does not do well for my evening sleep or my evening unwind. There we go. Okay. Let's see, what do we have? 15. I think that might be a bit shy. Let's go check and see if I can get a mending for this one. You were my mending man. Yes, 12. Good. Okay, that leaves me 3 left. So touch. Mending. Perfect. It's not ideal, but hey, it'll do. Oops. I want an anvil. Mending on... they're cheap enough. Why not? Let's just throw it on this one. Which... and then do I have... nope. Thought I had another axe kicking around. Oh, there's some more emeralds. Blind! Yay, 8. Food time! So, yeah. It's going to take me a while to build up a repertoire of... repertoire? Maybe that's not the word I'm looking for. Possibly. And change. A group of topics that we can easily touch on a regular basis. Because I don't know what I feel like talking about, and I don't know what you guys want to hear about. Questions and comments about anything and everything are always great. No pressure intended in any of that. It was just noting that it's kind of hard to keep up talking to a wall. And honestly, these guys are rather limited in conversation. Sometimes they get on a roll and end up saying, just at the right time to be hopefully within what I need for responsiveness to be able to talk to them as though they're real. But that is not the case the vast majority of the time. I may, just for convenience sake, because of the distractibility, throw on another add-on I used to use that would let me know about the durability of items, so when things are getting super low and I need to go mend them, it'll remind me. But we'll have to see, because I've had an off-and-on challenge with add-ons this season. I don't know what happened, but 1.18, it probably didn't do much of anything to the system, but somehow my setup did not upgrade smoothly. So, yeah, that was a pain. So I'm just slowly working through which add-ons I want to keep, which add-ons I don't, which ones are worth hunting down the updated versions, that sort of thing. For those of you who do even basic quality of life add-ons, or something like Optifine, it's really been interesting to note that it seems that the Forge version, Minecraft Forge, that allows you to add Forge-based add-ons, those ones seem to be, what's the word? I don't remember what I'm trying to say here. It seems to be that one's updating itself daily. And I don't really have a problem with that, but it is something about that little green blinky emerald when you log into Minecraft that tells you your version of something or other is out of date. It just gets under my skin, and I always feel compelled to go and update it as soon as possible. So it's been daily lately, and that's fine. It's just, yeah, not something that I expect to happen all the time, but it's one more thing on the to-do list. There we go. Okay. So stylistically, just going to change these outer two. Go vertical. Alright, so it shouldn't be all that long till at least we can start getting people moved in. Dirt. Actually, let's go this way. Coal mining is slow in the Nether today. I don't think I've mined coal for probably about a month. Maybe not a month. But in any of my worlds. So I haven't really... I don't think actually, the other side of it, I don't even know if I've ever mined coal in the Nether. Not that I shouldn't, I just don't know if I bothered. Okay. If I wanted to spend all season doing absolutely nothing but build, I have a sneaking suspicion I could probably relatively easily sucker Brian into more or less providing all my mats. Definitely will not be doing that, but I really do find it amusing that he always seems to have what I need. Okay, let's put these two on the floor. Okay. Oof. Yeah. Although I have a lot of orange fences, frankly, they're darned ugly and then some. So there will be some mining of materials for fencing and so on because, yeah, not on anybody's list to use orange. Yellow, actually, it's kind of interesting. Add-ons, they're hit or miss. There can be some fantastic packs, like some of the modded stuff that DadCraft server has on it, his modded server, but I find the quality of life ones are not necessarily indispensable, just very, very useful. Oops. Yeah, very useful. However, when you have people in the community such as Foxy No Tail, who can make some half-decent add-ons for Bedrock, there thus far hasn't been a whole ton of things on Java that I've missed. In all honesty, it's more the... I miss sometimes the behavior, the way things work, but I mean, that goes both directions. There's some behaviors in Bedrock that I prefer, and there's some behaviors that I prefer in Java in the vanilla. And I mean, you can get, if you go into Java, you can get really crazy and you can change just about anything. But I tend to prefer not to muck with things a whole lot in terms of base behavior. If I'm really stingy, there's an add-on that I could put in that has... Did I find one over here? No. Sapling, wrong one. A base behavior one that allows you to pretty much uncraft a lot of the items that you can craft, and then you can get your materials back. But I mean, on one hand it's cheaty, on the other hand it's definitely not something that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. What was I going for? Oh, wood. Right, standing here. Looking for wood. Okay, what do we have? Oak slabs? Okay, not there. Yeah, there'll be a storage house coming at some point, because it's not that I'm running out of space, although that is the case. It's that I'm just purely disorganized. There's my row of bell mistakes. So if anybody wants a bell, you know where to find me. And oak. Dadgabbit. I could make oak fencing for all these guys, or I could make birch fencing. I was kind of hoping for birch because it's a little bit lighter. But I do not appear to have any birch saplings. Which means expedition time! Hippy skippy! So... a bit of musical chairs on some of these. Let's see if I can go to the wood chest. Might as well steal... might as well steal the apples. I'll get more of those. Paper just while I'm here. Paper... Ooh, 18, that's it. Okay. Paper. Oops, got some pumpkins in there I can steal. It's 1 emerald worth. Okay. Pardon me, sorry. Gotta work on hitting that mute button faster. Right. Okay, so. Don't want that. That's for repairs for later. Don't need a ton of dirt. Let's put the dirt in here. Actually, yeah, off camera, I think I'll probably do a run to the local lava pool and throw out a lot of these shields. I might make one and go and enchant it up or something, and then throw everything else in there. But I've got just about everything I think I need. So let's just do a last quick run for some stuff, and then birch is really not that far. I think we've got a few just off in this direction, past the book, so we don't have to really wander all that far. Let's convert what we can. If anybody has any cool tips or tricks on how to not have to dig a half slab hole beneath these guys to be able to get all of the XP, that would be helpful. That will be my plan otherwise. I was trying to do it with the half slabs here and see if the XP would go around, but that's not always the case, so I end up going around the end. But if I'm going to seal in a whole row in the new library, then I definitely don't want to have to worry about XP getting stuck. Okay. Oh, and I meant to turn the paper and forgot. Hello? You want some paper? Thank you. 10. No! Wanted more. That's okay. We just need some food, really, is all I'm looking for here. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking that the birch fences will look lighter to start with. Not quite sure what sort of flooring mosaic to work on yet. One of the things I'd seen that actually looked quite interesting was the stripped oak logs done in almost a parquet style alternating directions. And so that actually might be something I think I'm going to play with this time. It needs a lot more wood than I really want to be doing on camera. But actually, just before I go pick up the birch logs, I think this might be a good place to leave it here for today. There'll be a lot of mining of wood off camera and figuring out the arch so that we can actually get a lid on this thing and then start moving the villagers in. I'm really glad everybody was willing to join and drop in, say hello, say hi. So if you've got any questions or concerns, you know to be able to find me. My name is Delenn_Russell on Twitch, and I'm hiding out on DadCraft73's Discord. So if you liked what you saw, then feel free to click that follow button or pass the word along. And I'm hoping that I will see you guys, if not tomorrow for Planet Zoo, then maybe again on Thursday for some more DC Minecraft Java style. Thanks and have yourselves a great day.